Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Ordinance Committee meeting. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no adjustments to the agenda, no, because Kristen's information is on the agenda itself. Public to speak on a non-agenda item. I suspect that Linda is here for an agenda item. And we'll review the November 20th regular meeting minutes. Looking for a motion, ladies. They are on our table.
They are.
Yeah, sorry, they were under the agenda.
Oh, okay. This is.
I will accept. Motion by Nancy,
Second.
second by Carolyn. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. All right, correspondence. So we did get feedback from Attorney Collins with regards to the status of our sign section as it was presented to her. She is making some suggested language changes, which are on the marked up document. Anything that is highlighted in yellow is her suggestion. I say that with a question at the end, just because I want to double check one other thing. Yep. Oh, and she did make a couple of other comments throughout, which you'll see in pink highlight. So it looks like she suggested. She does not see any policy reason for exempting a logo. She would like us to enter wording that identifies certain logos. She believes the existing ordinance is intended to exempt only logos that appear on goods to be sold. So she wants language to support that, put back in under 0.7, 3810 definition 7. Affixed to or printed upon goods sold at the premises. So if anyone's pleasure, if we could take a motion to, or do we not want that put back in? You have the opportunity to read her reasoning behind it. Is everybody comfortable with that? It looks as though she is not comfortable with exempting logos. That they should be included as a portion of the sign's dimensions.
That and.
Unless they are affixed. Sorry, what?
That it should be specific to the goods that you're selling.
Unless it is affixed to the goods that you're selling.
I have an example. I guess that's good as that. Do you have anything that you could come up with that would?
The skidoos, anything that says skidoo across it.
Yeah. If you're selling skidoo.
If you're selling the skidoo, doesn't count as square footage or area of your signage.
I mean, yeah. Okay, I get that.
So by removing that language,
It's a pretty fun goods sold at the premises. That makes sense.
yeah, so she would like that language put back in. It looks like we struck through
Oh, I see,
Okay.
yes.
And she has reworded legalese the wording that she wants to put back in.
Okay,
To address what we struck.
I make a motion to accept the language that was suggested by our attorney in section 38.10.2.7.
Second.
Fantastic. Motion by Carolyn, second by Nancy. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that is unanimous.
We have a quorum with 3. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next suggestion. On page 3868.24 sign temporary. Kristen would like us to put it back in. We struck through political signs because we felt like the state law addressed it clearly enough.
Should be included.
Yeah, so we struck through it because, again, sorry to repeat myself, but because we felt that the state law covered it and what it looks like, she wants us to include it within the definition because we want them to be exempt from this ordinance.
And because the state says that there is a certain timeline in which they can be up there for their temporary. So it's okay. Yes.
That is how I am interpreting it, yes.
And then I agree, I moved to accept the language in. In 3810-2.
Yep,
Yep.
3810 to 24.
3810-24. That the lawyer has agreed, address the political signs should be included within the definition of temporary signs.
I'll second that.
That was a motion by Nancy, second by Carolyn. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. And then, somewhere else where she suggests, oh, right there.
3870. It's got 3870 and 71, so I will comment.
No comment, but clearly she wants, and I didn't see her, she commented in her email. So it looks like off-premise signs are prohibited except real estate signs subject to the restrictions described in 381066. Official business directional signs as defined by the state of Maine Department of Transportation, and temporary signs as described in section 3810-220. When erected by not-for-profit organizations.
So she
Right,
wants that included? She wants that.
No, she wants us to
that
strike
out.
it.
Right. So in other words, if the library is having a sale or something, they can cut it up.
3810-220.
Nice.
Sign of a temporary.
Oh,
for
they
less than
cannot-
90
They
days.
cannot, all premises are prohibited, except
Except
real
real estate.
estate signs subject to the restrictions direct. Official business directional signs.
Temporary signs as described.
And section
10 to
when erected.
when erected. I think she's saying we can't single them out. I think she's saying we can't.
Well, it's like they change that to 0.20. Instead of 0.20, it should be 2.4.
Yes.
Because we're the other, so.
Yep.
2-4, right, it should be 2-4.
So that needs to be
So
changed.
that means that if a nonprofit wants to advertise an event off premises, it will be allowed. Is that what I'm reading, that if we strike that,
Off-premise signs are prohibited except,
except in real
but we
estate?
were trying to exempt them anyway, or trying to make an exception for them anyway.
Yeah, wait, I just want to understand what
Yeah.
it is, where, it's almost a double negative.
Off-premise signs are prohibited, except temporary signs as described in section 3810-224, when erected by not-for-profit organizations. So we included the language, when erected by not-for-profit organizations. That isn't new language, correct? It's in red, so yes.
So I'm reading it that, yeah, because I think Carol and I are reading it different ways. So which is it?
I think if you ignore everything else in between there,
Except.
off-premise signs are prohibited except temporary signs as described in section 3810-224. So if it's a temporary sign as identified in 10-224, then it doesn't matter who erects it. And I think that is, I really wish she would have put a little note, because I'm trying to interpret what her intent was, but
I think, but if you take out from the comments, if you take out off-premises signs are prohibited, without the exception, then it says when erected by not-for-profit. So the only time that they're exempted or that they're prohibited is if it's the not-for-profit organization that's erecting it. That's the way it reads if you take out the exception.
Right, that's where I was going.
So we're, instead of saying you can't have an off-premises site or sign, we're just saying you can't have it if you're a not-for-profit.
So she's taking that out.
So
she's
for
suggesting
instance,
removing that one.
for example, the RFA cannot advertise at the OG that we're having an auction or fundraising, or the library, or whatever, something off premises.
Right,
Cannot be advertised
That-
off premises.
that's how I'm reading it,
With her.
with her scratch out.
Yeah, but if we leave out. what
If
she
we
is
leave that
suggesting,
language there.
But she doesn't give an explanation.
Mhm.
Can we ask her for further explanation before we move the motion on? Hold on.
Okay, and then the only other change I noticed that we made was on the last page, 3871, under point 15. Why delete this? It's a civil offense to do so, and might as well also be a violation of this ordinance. No sign shall be attached to.
So she
The
said.
reason we deleted it is because nobody enforces it. It's an unenforceable issue. Nobody walks around and catches people who are stealing crap
And
to your poles.
and we knew it was against.
Sorry.
Right, we knew it was already against the. law.
Why
We
delete
took it
this?
out.
That is a civil offense to do
Well, if we
so.
know it's not
And
against
might
the
as
law,
well be
why do we
violation.
even bother putting it in there? Because then it's not some in ordinance, we can't control that, we can't monitor that.
Yeah.
I would just delete
If it's,
19
and
altogether.
here's the other thing, we could be more restrictive, but we're not being more restrictive by including the language. We're being identical to state law. If state law prohibits it, then we don't need to prohibit it.
Yeah,
Then we don't need to say anything, state law prohibits it, do we?
no sign shall be attached to utility poles which we struck. Trees on publicly owned property or traffic control signs or devices.
And the only portion she had trouble with was us striking utility poles.
Well, I guess her point is,
Why
why
delete this?
delete that if it's on the other things, traffic control signs are also publicly owned.
Yeah, I think that's her thing, she's, why are you deleting just that?
Right.
No,
When
she's
the whole
asking
thing is
specifically
a
about
civil
utility
offense.
poles.
Right, yes.
She's asking specifically about utility poles because it's the only section we deleted. It's the only words we deleted.
But I think.
Why delete this? It is a civil offense to do so. Yep, it's a civil offense to affix something to a utility pole.
And might as well
We
also
don't
be
have
about
anything
it.
about enforcement in there.
Uh,
We don't have anything about enforcement. So.
Utility poles even in jurisdiction?
not
No.
necessarily. Not necessarily, and if it's in state, I mean, we
See-
can be more restrictive with our language,
She,
but.
she just doesn't understand why we would believe it, and doesn't understand our own town, that every person in Maine is stapling things on the
Oh, it's a code enforcement officer fixes building permits to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, okay, so,
So why do we even have it in there? I mean, if someone
That's
can't
why
enforce
we
it,
struck it, the whole thing.
No signs will be.
no sign shall be attached.
Oh, no, the rest of it should stay, the rest of it,
Trees are publicly owned property.
that utility poles,
Or property. Well, I mean, we can put it back in, but. we're in the
Could you
same
put it back in
place.
and just say per state law? Like anybody's gonna read it, at least we covered our asses, CYA.
maybe that's what she's trying to get us to, it's an attorney, that's probably exactly what she's trying to get us to do.
Yeah.
It's a CYA
It's a
maneuver, so she
CYA.
just wants us to leave the word utility.
Yeah.
All right, it's anybody's pleasure, to make a motion to put the language back in.
I don't want to either. I know what happens, I mean, everybody does.
So
They
we
go
have
on.
taken her advice and her opinion, and there is no motion to put that wording back in. Okay.
I would put it back in,
Uh,
with the parentheses, see state law.
Well, of course it should be,
I mean, it's,
doesn't hurt. Maybe better safe than sorry.
can we just say it needs to be discussed further by committee?
Executive session.
Executive discussion.
all right.
I don't know, I mean, I would, if she's saying to leave it in, then, but I would say why we're leaving it in, because we know it's futile, but.
Well, maybe we should just leave it in, maybe we should leave it in and go with the status quo, of what we have right now.
Whatever, ladies. If somebody's pleasure is a motion, throw her out there.
I move that we leave the language in, we replace the language back, to meet compliance with state law.
Perfect, so we, utility poles, that's the word I was looking
Yeah.
for. Mhm.
Utility.
Motion by Nancy,
I'll second it.
second by Carolyn. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Please tell Kristen, thank you for her input and her position on those items for us. Okay, now,
Is there a way to get
continuing business.
this type of document to the committee prior to tonight? Is there a way, like if we get,
Depending on when it comes into the office and how quickly, I know that the staff here, the individual who is our secretary, I'm gonna speak for you, Marty, you can tell me if I'm incorrect here. But I know that, our board secretary is inundated with additional duties right now. And a learning curve moving into those additional duties. So I know that Marty makes every effort to get us the information in advance as often as she can.
okay,
Um,
fair enough.
if we can just put it out there, if you don't mind. forwarding it to us.
No.
Usually she's pretty good, she gives us the stuff ahead of time, even if it's like an hour ahead of time.
Right.
Like, she tries to do it. So when I didn't see anything today, I said, well, at least I didn't see it was canceled today. So I'm showed up. Right, even though I didn't want to come out.
And Marty does do a fantastic job of getting
Okay,
it to us in advance. I think that this is just, I mean, with elections and holidays. Yeah, so absolutely whenever possible. How's that?
She'll even call us and say, come pick it up.
Oh.
Send us an email, come pick your packet up, read it, it's thick. I'm like, oh God.
getting new.
Okay, so moving on to continuing business, sign ordinance. We were at section 3810.5 exempt signs. I have a note to pick up at 12:04 meeting.
I also just wanted to go over for a second what our purpose is and what brought us to this place, here. And just.
Whose purpose?
Our purpose as an ordinance committee meeting to discuss the sign. ordinance. So from what I'm understanding, it was a letter that, one sentence that came from, the Board of Selectmen voted last evening to request that the Ordinance Committee begin drafting a proposed update of the sign section of chapter 38.
Correct.
So that's very sweeping, that's very broad.
That's how we get our directives.
And I asked that exact question 2 meetings ago.
Yes, and it was explained 2 meetings ago, was it
The
not?
reasoning is 38 was being overhauled. But signs were so, I won't say contentious.
Got it.
It was more complicated than what we were able to get done. So they wanted to get the bulk of 38 passed through town meeting and then revisit signs afterwards. That was the whole point. But we had to get alternative energy done first because of the moratorium. It was expiring. We had to have that done before we could touch anything else. That's why we're now doing this.
Okay, so our goal is to draft changes, whatever we as five people think according to the public input is what should be changed in our sign ordinance, is that? Or do we have a more targeted, change that they're looking, proposed update, a more targeted update? Are we just addressing definitions? Are we addressing everything that has? to
We're
do
addressing
with
the
sign?
entire section per the directive from the Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
So the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board give us directives for what we're supposed to do.
right,
Our responsibility is to those 2 boards.
okay,
We take care of whatever they kind of put onto our plate, because as you can imagine, for either of those boards to address these throughout the process of everything else that they have in front of them, so that's why the ordinance committee was created, however many years ago it was created, for this thing. And we just take the directives from them. So the Board of Selectmen directed us to take a look at the sign section of chapter 38 and make amendments.
To see if it was outdated for any reason, there wasn't any specific being within the community that said, yo,
They heard from folks in the community that we needed to look at the document, and there may be potential areas of change
okay,
that should be addressed in the document.
this is helpful because I only came to this committee, not even a year ago. So for me to know the backstory is important, and I think, good to know.
you're asking the
Where
same
we're
questions
going.
I asked.
Where are we going and why are we
Exactly.
trying to get there?
Great, and I really, Nancy, that really bothers me that you keep saying that you've asked the same questions I've asked. Has it not been explained to you throughout the process?
Yeah, it has been,
Okay.
it has been explained, but again, it's like, I guess to me, it's nitpicky. So I'm just kind of like, okay, but that's just my perception. So not everyone's just going through this going, all right, that's a word like usually, or that's a, kind of thing. It could be broader, it could be tighter, it could be, so I was just trying to understand the essence of origin.
And is our goal, our end goal, to propose a change that then goes to the voters of our?
Yes,
Not,
that's all we
not
ever
just
do.
going back to the slide. Back-
No, what we do is send it back to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen then make a determination if it will be moved to a warrant.
Okay,
They are in charge of what goes on the warrant.
You also planning board too,
Yeah.
because of it being a zoning situation.
I see, okay. And then if there were, let's say, multiple changes within this, sign ordinance, different, that addressed totally different things. Are we then able to present to the voters of Rangeley individually, itemized? Do you approve of
No.
that, or do you?
No,
So
it has to be done as an amendment.
Into one thing.
Yes.
Even though as a voter, you may say, well, I want that, but I don't want that. You have to
Yes.
override which one you feel strongly about.
Which is also why I believe why the board pulled this section out. Because they didn't want all of the hard work that went into the chapter 38 amendments
Yeah.
to live or die on the signs. And it would have lived or died on the signs.
I get that.
So that's why they piecemealed this sign section to us.
Okay, and even though there are important aspects of the sign ordinance that may change, whether it's definitions or electronic signs, as, you know, whoever feels passionate about, or whatever, real estate signs or logo signs or whatever.
It is a yes
It's
or no
Yes or no vote.
on the amendment as a whole. Like
So-
yes or no,
And we're.
just like it is with any other ordinance.
Yep, just
Yeah.
wanna be clear
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
going
it's a
forward.
yes or no on the
To
amendment
myself.
as a whole.
Yep.
Because it's presented to the constituency as an amendment to chapter 38, section.
Right.
Signs.
Yes, because when we did the vendor signs, the vendor changes, and it went to the town of Rangeley voters, they had a yes or no, even though there were many different aspects that were, yeah,
And the reasoning behind that is because there is so much opportunity for public input during the process.
yeah, but still you don't have the opportunity to say, well, let's address just that.
No, because you are leaving it to the constituent, to the folks that you have given the duty to. We simply make the suggestions to the changes. It is the elected officials of the community who then choose to put the language forward. It is their responsibility. So you have to have a whole lot of faith in your elected officials when doing things of this nature.
Right,
And there's public hearings, and there's always the opportunity for everybody for public comment.
right. It's
So there's public hearing at our level, then there'll be public hearing at planning board level, then there'll be public hearing at board of selectmen level. There is ample opportunity for folks to come in. But as is seen quite frequently,
Sure, well, people speak
There-
in the voting booth.
in the ninth hour is when folks go, well, I didn't know that was happening. Or
True,
I wasn't aware of that was the language proposed, or I was,
that's true.
it just happens a lot.
Well,
And it is the nature of the beast. I mean, everybody's got stuff to do. Everybody's got lives to live, so they don't consider the impact of certain things. 38, when the overhaul of 38 was done, that had a lot of input. That saw a lot of, because it was so impactful in the community as a whole.
yeah,
I suspect that this will pick up steam at some point, and we'll have more than Linda joining us.
yeah. And, yeah, I would.
And we
I
have
would-
taken input from the community thus far. I mean, we have some fantastic language proposals and some ideas and some thought processes that were already proposed by folks. Linda's been gracious enough to provide us with the proposed language for dark sky compliance. If nobody minds, I'm gonna ask Linda, I'm so sorry I missed the Monday night meeting. I don't generally do that, but
Oh, the select board meeting?
yes,
Yeah.
and I saw that dark sky was on there again.
No, we got bumped to the next meeting. I couldn't make Monday night, so I need to show up at the on the 15th.
And do you mind if I ask, what is the intent for approaching them again? Is this to,
The lighting ordinance, is lacking language that will, give us the dark sky certification. Well, actually, I remember talking to, you were on the panel then
Yeah.
as well. It's just incomplete. What
and
was,
that's within chapter 38, correct?
yes, it is,
Yeah.
and so, and what was presented, was incomplete, which I didn't know at the time. So it needs more language.
So Carolyn, do you feel like, do you have any additional questions, Nancy? Do you have any additional questions? Do we
Really?
feel like we're,
No, I guess it's, the nature of the beast. I see it in federal government, when a bill goes to the Senate, or whatever, there's all these things that are included in it, and they have one vote, yes or no, and it jams everything up because you don't have a line item vote. I was just wondering if we could get to that point within our little community. That's it.
You already have a 12-page ballot that people are complaining about because of the line items in the budget. We tried to line item every single change to an ordinance.
Yeah,
People will stop voting. They're not going to fill out a 16-page ballot.
You also run the risk of contradicting something if they vote this down and this up. It could,
Then the
Find
language,
a-
the language, you can create conflicting language,
right,
which is why it's a yes, no, when you present, for ordinance purposes.
yeah.
It's
no,
why it's always been presented in this method.
Makes
And
sense.
it's explicitly written out in state law, how you will amend
Okay.
ordinances and how you will change.
well, then,
Yeah, so the state kind of drives how we do it.
And the other reason I said that, I asked that question to count is that when I was new, I just wanted accounting. The same, that's why.
I was like, oh my God, if we left you.
No. I wanted to her that I was where you were, is what I was trying to say. I would ask those exact questions, and I understand, but I just wanted to let her know, I guess just as newbies, when you come on board, and everybody is already, it's a cog already gone.
Yeah.
And you're
Right.
trying to catch up,
Yes.
and you're trying to figure out, what the heck?
yeah,
So and that's what I meant.
Yeah, and I just panicked because I'm like, oh my God, if
No,
there's Nancy clamoring at the end of the table, this whole time we've been on the committee.
No. I would say, back when, I didn't want you to think that, that's why I'm trying to clarify myself.
All right, ladies, so we were ready to pick up at exempt signs. And we were going to go through it, everybody was comfortable with the going through it section by section, because that feels better than bouncing around all through the document, right?
yeah.
Does anybody have any notations in the exempt signs, starting with, point 1? I don't have any notes that anybody had thoughts about changing any of that language. I'm not seeing where we made any previous changes. So if we want, we can certainly kind of say the same thing we did last time and say complete by section that doesn't have any amendments, if everyone's comfortable with that. I mean, I'm not seeing any red language in point 1, point 2, point 3. Looks like maybe it was just a clerical correction in point 4 because those have to be made
I had a question.
through this process.
Yeah.
Okay, point 4, what was?
Oh, it was, just trying to understand that, I'm trying to visualize, I'm a visual person. Signs painted on a window of business, provided such signs do not exceed 50% of the area of the window,
Yeah.
are exempt from the requirements of this section of the town code.
Yeah, so you can paint your sign all over your windows, depending on how big your windows are.
Mhm.
And you have all these signs all over your window painted on them. And it doesn't count as a sign because they're on your windows.
Because it covers less than 50%.
If it covers that,
Uh-huh.
if it covers.
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, you could have, 10 square foot sign, windows. Is that just a way to
Get around having a sign.
circumvent our sign restriction?
Totally.
I think so. But signs painted on the window of a business, provided such signs do not exceed 50% of the area of the window.
So if somebody puts, congratulations graduates, and they paint this
That's
beautiful,
not a sign,
well,
that's a message, that's.
sign painted on the window.
That's a
No,
sign.
It's a sign. It's
Doesn't say words.
it doesn't say words. And it doesn't say what is painted. It doesn't clarify what needs to be painted to constitute a sign. I mean, you could paint,
Or if I painted a snowman on the
I mean,
window
you would,
and put snowflakes around, but
No,
it
no.
exceeded more than 50%.
But according to our
Are we gonna be
definition,
out there with a razor blade, just
no,
making your snowman just a little bit smaller?
according to our sign in 3810-7, sign, the definition of sign is any device, fixture, placard, or structure that uses any color, form, graphic, illumination, symbol, or writing to advertise, announce the purpose of, or identify the purpose or a person or entity, or to communicate information of any kind to the public.
Any kind to the public.
Any kind,
Of
Any
any
person.
kind.
person, so an
But
aspect.
then it goes on brand names and logos of goods and services provided are not considered signs under this section of the town code. So is that,
So to your congratulations, Carolyn, is words to a person, correct?
that's,
Reading that?
I think the purpose of a sign is to advertise what you are going to sell or what it is that you have to offer.
When people put signs up for happy anniversary, happy birthday, congratulations, graduate.
Not saying that should be restricted, but that's a temporary message.
And this is just exempting signs painted on your window
Yeah, I know.
that do not exceed 50% of the area of the window.
Oh,
Don't it-
it's an easy way for someone to get around the sign ordinance of, whatever square feet.
Yeah, because if they
Well,
paint
we're
something
getting-
on, then they don't have to go by, it doesn't say, they can use whatever they want. Oh. That's why I have question marks in there. Like, what?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
someone could take every window in their business and write the name of their company on every window. According to this, so long as it didn't exceed 50% of the window space.
50% of the area of the window.
So let's say Joe's Hamburgers opens up and they've got a big storefront on Rangeley, the old IGA, for instance. Look, big huge windows. They could take every single window, all 5 of them, and write the name of their store on all 5, paint it. And that will be considered sign, according to what we have now. You're saying.
As long as what they paint on each of them doesn't exceed 50% of each of them, yes, that's how the language currently reads.
Giant windows. Maybe. I'm not proposing really right now a solution, I'm pointing out a problem. That I think could be,
Do you see any business on Main Street strictly wanting to use their windows for advertising their business? And what about folks that do paint murals and things on there?
like a snowman or something. I don't care, I don't think that's really what we're talking about. I think,
By the definition, it is.
I know, well, it goes back to definitions.
Okay, so as of right now, there's no suggestion for, there are just concerns about the language.
Yeah.
Okay,
I make a motion, we further discuss this one, Val and Scott are in session with us. And have, some time to think about it.
motion by Caroline to discuss section 0.4 of 38-10-5 when we have a full board. Is that correct?
That is cool.
Second.
Second by Nancy. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. 0.5, 0.6, and 0.7 all saw the same grammatical change, oh, yes, I'm sorry, Linda.
all the changes that I proposed for dark sky within this section allowed, so would you consider, well, some of them, I guess, are general, but point 2 and point 4 have some suggested language for dark sky, although
Ah, yes,
Yeah, this
point
is-
2. Was to add at the end of the paragraph, except that the requirements for internal or external lighting of signs must be met. House address signs, family name signs, and residential property name signs not to exceed. Not to exceed. Are exempt from the requirements of this section of the code. Except that the requirements for internal or external lighting of signs must be met.
okay, but put that in because if someone puts up, a sign at the end of their driveway, the Joneses, and it's totally lit, like crazy, beyond the scope of dark sky. I mean, there's nothing that would stop them. And I don't know, maybe it's redundant for signs, although these are under exempted signs, so.
Right.
That's why we
Yeah,
want to
this
make
is the
sure,
exempt section.
yeah.
This way, that someone could have a family name sign at the end of their driveway that is 6 square feet. Is that,
Not to exceed 6 square feet.
but
Yeah.
okay, let's say it's 6 square feet. And that's a 3x2 sign, which is pretty big. That's a pretty giant big sign of house address sign, family name sign, and residential property name sign. Not to exceed 6 square feet, seems like an awful big sign. And Jones is at the end of the driveway. That's 3x2. 3x2. Oh.
Does that include like some moving signs?
I think so. I would think so.
Residential
Home address
property?
signs, family name signs, and residential property name signs, yeah. Subdivision
So it's
signs.
a-
Subdivision sign, sure, yeah, but your house sign at the end of your driveway could be 6 square feet. According to this.
According to the current language, yes.
I make a motion to further discuss section 38-10-5. Dash.
So for this purpose, we don't really need a motion each time you want to discuss it at a future meeting. Motions are really to make changes to the, we can just state on record that you want to review this section at a future meeting.
I'll just get
Okay.
on record that I would like to discuss this.
Review this section at a future meeting. And it is the square footage.
Yeah, right, the 6 square feet that I would take.
Then I'd like to make a motion to accept Linda's language for 2, except the requirements of internal and external lighting a sign must be met.
Motion by Nancy to accept the language as presented by Linda for dark sky compliance. Except that the requirements for internal or external lighting of signs must be met.
Must be met.
Where are you seeing, what?
Then her, you gave us a letter.
The additional information that she provided us with today.
Today,
No,
Okay,
No,
okay,
no.
gotcha. Yes,
You-
I'll second that.
Second by Carolyn. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. And that language has been included. We'll be reviewing point 2 at a future meeting. Here, so I can make sure. That we talk about the right thing at the next meeting. And then point 4. You had concerns about 50%, which you wanted to talk about at a future meeting. There's also suggested language from Linda for this one. She suggested at the end of this one to include language that says any lights set up to backlight any painted signage on a window must follow the lighting requirements specified in the section, in this section of the town code for lighted signs and or the requirements for section 38.8.2 lighting.
And that comes from a concern of, people said, if someone flashes a light on the window, so you see it better from the outside, and now you're shooting light outside the building. And I don't know if that, if that may or may not be an issue, but if someone did put some big lamps there, the light would flow into the street, basically, or to the sidewalk.
right, and you're referring to where it says lighting, applicability, new current and required retrofit lighting must meet all lighting requirements in this. That's the
Yeah.
38.2. 38, yeah, 2. 38.
Basically, it can't spill out onto,
Exemptions,
The
the following
sidewalk.
lighting are for, yeah, so you're saying like mini lights, those are exemptions, but anything emitting brightness less than 600 lumens is exempt. The light, the voltage of the lighting, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so all we here would be, okay.
So because there are concerns with this type of exempt sign to begin with, I almost wonder if we'd be jumping the gun to include your language,
no, I would agree.
because I think they really want to discuss at a fully attended meeting this
Yeah,
type of exemption.
yeah. No,
Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that makes
So I
sense.
think for that particular suggestion, we will hold off until we get a determination. Everyone is good with that? Okay. 5.6, temporary signs. You have language that you would like us to add the same language as point 2 above. So that's that, except that the requirements for internal or external lighting of signs must be met.
Yeah,
You want us to add that under 0.6 temporary signs.
yes.
What is the pleasure of the group? Do we want to add that same language?
That's a new. Add that same language.
Perfect. Motion by Nancy to add that same language.
I'll second.
2.6 temporary signs, second by Carolyn. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Am I making this as clear as mud? Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. I mean, because you have a copy of it. Yeah, fantastic. Perfect. So per Linda's recommendations for night for dark sky compliance is what we're doing. That's the document we're referring to, is the 4-page. Sorry, it is 3-page. Sorry, I have an agenda under there. Okay, ladies, and then 0.8. Looks like we made some. Okay, that was a clerical and then. So long as they measure less than 1 square foot. Was that language we added and then struck? Is that why it's in red and then struck?
Maybe it was.
Window decals and temporary advertisements printed on paper or cardboard of a type generally used to advertise daily special sales or similar activities are exempt from the terms of this section of the town code.
It was originally,
Hmm.
it was originally in there, but you can't cross out red without changing it.
Right,
Oh,
with that, yeah,
That's why.
okay. So long as they measure less than 1 square foot, so we struck that language at some
We
point.
struck, yeah, so the long.
But it doesn't give any measurement.
Window decals, temporary advertisements printed on paper or cardboard. Of a type generally used to advertise daily specials, sales, or similar activities. Are exempt for the terms of this section.
Well, they really don't have lights,
Right,
so. Cardboard signs.
they're like your little advertising flyers, like
Yeah, they don't.
they put up at IGA.
Right, there's not a light, there's nothing illuminating, there's nothing.
I believe this was on the, she was talking about her in the picture.
Yeah.
Well, I think it should be, delineated with the 1 square foot, because that would, doesn't that include like the menu at the town? You know, what's that one, townhouse? I mean, otherwise it's restricted to 1
Yeah.
square foot.
So that's why that language has already been struck, so everybody's good with that,
Okay.
perfect. Right, I'm sorry, did I tell you, okay, so 3810.5 exempt signs, .1 is good, it's complete. So is 3. 2 and 4 are set for further discussion. 5, 6, 7, complete.
Are we going to add 6? Having the dark sky?
Yeah, yes, we did that already by motion. Yeah, so those are now complete.
Mhm.
Okay, and then 8 appears to be complete.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, with our already approved, perfect, and then 9 is also complete. Okay. What time is it, ladies? Ugh. Okay, what do we think about putting a pin in it here? Because there's several suggested portions of language for the dark sky compliance as we run into 3810.6.
General provisions.
Yep. Well, does anybody feel like we can get anywhere in the next 5 minutes? This is a meeting that we really hold to that 1 hour, just because we know everybody's got other stuff to do and it's already been a very long day for Marty.
Well, it's Linda's got something she really wants to.
I'll just accept it as is.
Like, just make a broad stroke motion, just
Accept it.
Just do it. Perfect. Okay, ladies. Now, was there a problem with the next meeting?
What is the proposed?
Will we meet first and third
I think
Wednesday?
the third, this is 20th, when people are
It's
saying,
18th.
no, with 18, yeah.
Yeah.
People are,
I can't remember.
Do you mind shooting out an email?
I'll do that tonight.
And if everybody could just respond to the email after having the opportunity to look at, and I'd like to have these two have the opportunity to look at their, especially where a couple of these things we've put off based on having a full board.
Yeah.
We have to skip the 1st of January because the first one in January is January 1st.
Yeah, I saw that. We have no new business. Next meeting date, we were already talking about, ladies, I'm sorry, I skipped new business. All right, so we will pick up at general provisions, section 3810-6 at our next meeting, which is tentatively the 18th. We'll go with tentatively. All right, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second. Motion by Nancy, second by Carolyn. All those in favor? Fantastic. And Nancy's like, come on, let's get to that. Thank you so much, ladies. Linda, thank you as always for being here and tolerating this process. I know it can be tedious.
Thank you for putting up with that.
Oh my God.